Welcome back to the Sankofa series. I'm your host, Tanisha Miss T. Morrison, owner and visionary of the Empower Her Experience. Today on our Reach Back and Fetch It Sankofa series, we have the lovely Miss LaLisa Morgan. So listen, y'all, she is not your granny's therapist, okay? With over 29 years of professional experience as a licensed clinical social worker, community activist, trainer, therapist, mentor, ally, and advocate, LaLisa Morgan supports her clients to be the best vision of yourself as you heal from trauma and life limiting beliefs and deeply rooted family and social barriers as you develop your career and professional identity. She offers real talk about relationship issues and authentic conversations in a safe, therapeutic environment. LaLisa is an alumnus of California State University, Los Angeles, where she completed her two master's degrees with one master's in social work and another in healthcare management, along with a certificate in applied gerontology. She completed her undergraduate program in public administration at California State University, Dominguez Hills, Soros.
Mhm. Hola.
Additionally, LaLisa currently serves her community as a supervising children's social worker and child welfare for 15 years, ensuring child safety, building families, and strengthening communities. LaLisa has been included in several anthologies and has also had her own published work, with the most recent being Surviving the Chaos, Journey to Healing and Legacy Living, and the Companion Guided Reflection Journal. LaLisa Morgan founded Kingdom Journey to Healing, counseling, consulting, and coaching to support the journey to healing for individuals, couples, and families. By looking at a foundation of self love and self care, LaLisa hopes to empower people to ignite their dreams, unleash their potential by fulfilling their purpose, by building professional identity, social connections, and improving relationships with their family and friends. Welcome, Lisa. How are you?
Hey, welcome. It's morning time. See,
It is
I do late
morning
night
time.
therapy. I don't be doing morning stuff. So this is opposite my time frame.
Yes, yes, I know. Well, I appreciate you hopping on and giving us some of your time. First, I really want to just say thank you because you have been an integral part of the Empower Her experience from its inception. For me, even just thinking about what I wanted to do, events, programs, mentorship, so on and so forth. You been able to allow me to lean on you just to get advice. As you guys heard, like she does everything, okay? And she is a very prestigious woman, and she takes what she does seriously. So I just appreciate you for everything that you've done for my journey and adding to my journey. You're also a part of Project Slay Women's Group, and you've been, not only support to myself, but to our sisterhood. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I enjoy supporting. I mean, I feel like that's my God-given place. And whether it's sex ed or just something about depression and grief, I
Mhm.
can pretty dig deep and dive in there with whomever I'm speaking with.
Yes, yes, girl. Like you have, look, it's multiple layers of you, and we're gonna get into it. Okay.
All
Um,
right.
so I want to start off the conversation with commending you for like doing the work to become a therapist. As we know in the Black community, growing up especially, it has been a taboo. Um, for people to not really go tell the family business, for people to not really, be vulnerable with a stranger and so on and so forth. But in the most recent years, our sisters and our brothers have been trying to, take their mental health a lot more serious, and they're tapping into hiring therapists, counselors, and coaches. So I commend you on, this journey of a Black therapist. And that's where I really want us to kind of like dive into for this. You've been in the industry for a long time, so I know you've seen both sides. When it was a taboo, and you've observed, people really tapping into it now. So, what has that looked like for you? Like those changes and everything.
Well, I would like to say again, thank you for the opportunity to come on your show. It's cool. I love Empower Her, and Project Slay is all that. So that's our thing. And that's part of managing good mental health. So what I would like to say is the journey to good, solid mental health practices has been a struggle in the Black community. Coaching is not therapy. And sometimes people say, oh, I'm a relationship coach, and they may have some skill sets to support that. And because there's such a shortage of Black therapists, they're probably even just needed right now because there's not that many African American therapists. However, coaching is not therapy. There's a mental health component that's protected by the Board of Behavioral Sciences. And in our studies, in the over 3,000 hours of clinical supervision, you got to do the work. Many different types of therapists. For example, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. There's MFTs, there's licensed professional counselors, the LPCCs, and a psychologist. So everyone has a different framework from what they're studying. However, my particular framework is a holistic point of view in social work. And so with social work, we look at, the domains of wellness. How are you functioning in various domains? And we look at the whole person, and it's slightly different. So in the Black community, unfortunately, my caseload still doesn't reflect the people that I started the practice for, because many people are still not, they blame it on the cost, or they blame it on, oh, I don't have time. So even when I open my practice, I have late night therapy, which is almost unheard of. I know one other agency that tries to do that, but then the cost is still not, just astronomical. I just try to make myself available to serve. And so those who call for consultations, they have to be serious to do the work. That's part of being invested in loving yourself. In order to love others, you can't give from an empty cup. And so many people are out here dating, cohabitating, getting married, and they don't even love themselves or know who they are. And that's the challenge, because you come from your family of origin. We were told, many people were seen, not heard. I'm a product of that generation. You're seen, not heard. Then you got the baby boomers and the set, Generation X, Y, Z, and everything else that came after it. And people have perpetually parented through trauma.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what that means? Being seen and not heard. Like, what's an example of that?
So when you're seen, not heard, children were often, you hear the gossip, the family drama, but you weren't allowed to speak up or express your feelings, right? So even if something made you so sad, they'll tell you, suck it up, go rub some dirt on it, toughen up. But that's part of the generational and historical trauma. So see, in slave times, even though we don't talk about slavery today, but slave time, you couldn't praise your child. The slave master would sell your child. Think about it. You couldn't praise your child because the slave master would sell your child. So if your child had a particular skill set that he or she did well, no one was telling nobody you did this well. They kind of try to keep it a hush hush. Fast forward to today. How many Black mothers and fathers really praise their child for doing good? They still struggle with that. And that's just one area, right, that I'm using as an example.
That's a really good example. That's a really good example, because I never really thought about, our ancestors, grandparents, great, however, what that has meant, generation after generation after generation. And like you said, why possibly there hasn't been that praise, there hasn't been that, pat on the back, that there hasn't been that pouring into them the way they have. So that's a really good point. And
we're perpetually anxious people, because we're always worried about the next, right? And then either you go extreme and you're trying to live it big now and not saving money, not due diligence. You're trying to party like a rock star today versus planning it over time because you have time, right? And you want to be mindful and live in a moment, but then at the same time, everyone's instant. So you're spending money too much. You don't manage your finances. You're in bad relationships where you stay too long, even though you know it's not healthy for you. You're not having genuine conversations on what are the key characteristics of a real friend, because you're making these pseudo friendships, staying around because they've been around so long. Well, sometimes as you level up, your friendships change. And it's
Look, that's a
okay.
whole other conversation right there about,
Look, and it's
look,
okay to
it's
outgrow your
okay. It's
people.
okay for friendships to have expiration dates. It's okay for, you know, as you, and I don't even want to say mature, because sometimes it's not really about a
It's
maturity
just
thing.
your
It's like
elevation, your focus and
your
your
elevation,
priorities
your
shifts.
likes, your dislikes, those things that, you may now have a whole different way of life for yourself that may not work for that friendship. But yeah, and yeah, go ahead,
Girl,
girl.
because I mean, I was a big time party animal. Like, I was the turn up. But now I'm much more calmer, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go. Some stuff I can go to, and sometimes I can't. But of course, people don't want you to outgrow what you were known for. So then that expectation of you becomes that you the turn up. If that person comes, oh, it's about to be a party. But then now you're calm, and it's like, yeah, no, it's not gonna be like that. Not to the full extent of what it was. And so as your expectations have shifted for yourself, your priorities, your mental health becomes destabilized, right? Because there's sadness because you can't or choose not to go around family the way you used to, or you have sadness because now the career is not as fulfilling as it used to be. Or maybe you realize, hey, my finance and credit score is in the toilet. I want to make a change on how I live life. Well, a licensed clinical social worker like myself can hold you accountable during this journey and have these authentic conversations. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, maybe you were starting and passing it out for a minute, and now you want to pull back and manage your body. That's all conversations in the hood that we don't talk about like we should. And having a therapist, and in particular, if you have a Black therapist, you feel like they can participate in owning what it's like to live in poverty, living in hood, or becoming a middle income person from the hood and now dealing with another level of racist activities or just not acceptance because it's bicultural and it's just different. And so I've been in the hood. I've managed to raise, as they say, pull yourself by your bootstraps and bootstraps and grow. And I still, still have to manage connections with people from my origins. And I love it that I'm able to talk to the gangster on the street and give him therapy, and talk to the mayor of the city of Azusa and have a consultation meeting. I mean,
Look,
to
you
me,
said
that's
go ahead and
look, I can go back and forth with no problem, and I love it.
Yes, I love that too. Look, you already, just in the few minutes that we've been on, you've already shown like what real talk about relationships and issues look like for you, as a Black therapist. But something else you mentioned was you're not really serving the community that you went into business for. What are some of those hurdles? I know you said finances, but is there anything else?
Well, unfortunately, most Black families that I've interacted with so far, they just don't take it serious, the journey. They're not ready authentically. And it's okay. I just kind of, now I'm starting to put myself in spaces. I look up for pop-ups in the Black community. I look for, I have much more books to offer because some people not ready, right?
So we're gonna get into the books, okay?
Look,
we're not skipping the books.
I started writing to say, hey, maybe they'll read this to get started until they are ready, right? And so it's not like I said, it's not your granny's therapist. I try to break stuff down in real layman's terms and yet professional to really help equip people in a journey. I give 15-minute consults to try to reach people where they're at. Baby mama, baby daddy drama is so real, but then they're like, oh, I gotta pay for therapy, or oh, I gotta use my insurance. And I do accept insurance now because I realized, like I said, what I wanted to do is reach my people. And most of them say, you accept insurance? Well, I don't take Medi-Cal. I do take some regular insurances. And so that was my way of, okay, let me find a medium ground so that I can serve my folk. And I've seen
look, we appreciate that. We
and
appreciate
I
that
have
because that
seen a
puts your people
few
in front of you.
increases. I had like a 10%. Once I got Blue Anthem and Blue Shield, Cigna, Aetna, Optum, and United. And so, so once I got those approved, I've seen an increase. But my therapist didn't look like me when I was a kid. When my young adult. And I'm gonna tell you now, you keep a therapist on standby, even as a professional therapist, because there's issues that come up when you're treating people, like someone has a child fatality or something, these murders is real out here, and institutional racism is real at work. And so people don't get it that we see it, those microaggressions, we see it and we struggle with it every day. So having a therapist is significantly important, even if you test it, come in once a month or twice a month. You don't have to be in intensive therapy. Intensive therapy is more like weekly or twice a week.
Oh, I know about the intensive therapy.
Girl, it's real. But people don't realize the value of loving yourself so significantly. Yeah. Taking that 45, 50-minute clinical hour, investing in yourself is just as important as going to the gym 3 times a week for 40, 45 minutes. Yeah. We need to take care of our mind, body, soul, and spirit. And so in my therapy practice, I typically use the domains of wellness to have authentic conversations along with solution-focused therapy to really help you find solutions with, for life's issues. Whether you and your mama got issues, or you and your baby daddy got issues, or your baby mama got issues. So, I have seen an increase in men coming to me for treatment, which is great. That is. A lot of it is conflict management with their ex, but people unfortunately don't mind their business in the sense of my baby daddy and I broke up, or my baby mama and I broke up. As long as the kid's safe, why am I all participating in their business, and which causes additional conflict? So helping people kind of look at their own, hold the mirror, look at their own issues, and why am I inserting myself in other people's business? You can insert yourself into your mama's drama or your cousin's drama, and that disrupts your mental health. But there's a reason why, and I'll help you uncover the why.
Uncovering the why. Okay. What are some joys? What are some joys that you have as therapist?
I love seeing the aha moment. I like seeing when people, all those aha moments when people like click. That's super the best. And watching people evolve. So they might start off one place and then they evolve to accepting and loving who they are. And they start doing self-care activities, whether they start going to the gym or start taking vacations like me, because I will model in a second. I'm going on vacation soon. And I tell people, and listen, you better do your self-care. And they're like, oh, you're not available? Nope. I'm self-care modeling. Whether it's a 3-day weekend or this time it's going to be a 7-day week. I model it and I teach about it. And I, even in my other gig, because everybody got 2 jobs, even my other job, did you take your vacation? Did you schedule your vacation? Yeah. It's time. Make sure you do self-care, because if you don't love yourself enough to take a break, date yourself. Take yourself to the movies. Yeah. Why do you always gotta be with somebody else? See, I was like that when I was younger, and I thought it was normal. But you need to sit with the quietness of your mind. And if you can't do that, let's have a conversation.
That's what I was gonna say, because a lot of people think that, when you hear the word self-care is used so loosely, it's not necessarily just traveling, and I'm a travel agent, so I love to promote travel. However, like you said, it's sitting with self, being able to go to a movie, being able to go to a restaurant by yourself. One of the things that we talked about in Project Slay, our women's group, was having a table for one and making that a normal routine for yourself. Be it just going to go sit at the park and sit with nature, listen to the birds, listen to the lake if there's a lake there, what have you. Watch the people around you, sit with self, listen to what God, spirit, universe, whoever your higher power or whatever it is, what
Mhm.
they're trying to tell you. But literally taking your self-care, it could be writing, journaling, affirmations. Y'all know I got my book out for that. I got
Hey.
out for that, right? But really taking time to reflect, reason with self, you know, and making decisions that sometimes you don't want to make. So I salute you for that. And yes, of course, like Lisa said, if you're trying to find your aha moment, no matter how long that takes, whether you want to do intensive therapy, whether you want to just go once a month and download, you know, a lot of times people
Something's
think,
better to nothing than when it comes to loving
yes,
yourself.
yes,
Something is better than nothing. And people don't spend 30 minutes. I mean, they barely go to the toilet. Like, that's really what it is. And it's like, no, you need to do more than just go to the toilet. You need
mm-hmm,
to love on yourself. Maybe instead of this morning, maybe you actually take the 3 minutes to brush your teeth
right,
instead of and go. No,
mm-hmm,
take your time. We talk about, so you know, I'm post bariatric. I used to weigh 300 pounds, so now I'm not, and I praise God for it every day. And so being mindful of what you eat and how you eat and how long you eat, right? Are you really tasting the foods? This mindfulness is part of therapy strategies, and really owning where you are in your body and sensing your body, because
yeah,
some people they confuse hunger for thirst based on being poor, and you don't know the difference because
mm-hmm,
everything seems like you're hungry. You
yeah,
know, some people have gone from homelessness, and then you get an apartment and you go into clutter mode because guess what? You never had before, and
mm-hmm,
you just want to hold on to everything. So
mm-hmm,
it's a whole lot going on when it comes to mental health.
mm-hmm,
And people don't, you know, a lot of it, they hear mental health, they think schizophrenia, they think, you know, chronic, severe conditions. But
mm-hmm,
everyday mental health is just as important. Having anxiety, managing your relationships with other. That's a V code in the book, the DSM book, and that's and it's like, how is your relationship with child? Parent-child relationship issues is mental health. Relationship issues with your partner is mental health.
yeah,
Relationship with your parents and granny and any other extent, work relation, all of that falls into mental health. But when you hear mental health, they think, oh no, I'm not crazy. It's
yeah,
not that you crazy, but we crazy if we keep dealing with that stuff without working on the truth of who we are and
mm-hmm,
being honest, authentically you. You
yeah,
know, I have clients that have polyamory. I have clients that are strict Christian and formally one-on-one relationships. I have it all in my practice, which
yeah,
I enjoy people finding themselves. What's the best version of you?
yeah, yeah. Okay. Look,
I love my
if
job.
you're looking for a therapist, a counselor, she also has some coaching that she does as well. LaLisa and Kingdom Journey to Healing is definitely the place um, for you. And you can see it's very open, relatable, transparent. You could be yourself, okay? Come as you
Yes.
are. That's one thing I love
Yep.
about you, is that, in my opinion, you know, a person can really come as they are and be as vulnerable, be as transparent, be as broken, you know, as they are in that moment so that they can get to the other side.
Yeah.
So
And
I
you
want
get
to
to
hop into
define your
your,
other side. That's the wonderful thing. You get to decide what your other side is.
yeah, yeah, because it can be in different parts of your life, right?
Yes, it
This,
changes with ages
yeah.
and stages. I'm entering third quarter. It's hard to believe, but I'm entering third quarter. And it's like, wow, you know, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. You know, and life's transitions. Now my kids are grown. No, I don't have no babies no more. Do I date older or younger? Like, what do I do? Because I got
Okay,
options now.
which
Hey,
you
I
want
can
to,
switch back and forth, you know, and so it's like, okay, you
look, she
know,
said, don't
and
play with me. I can go either way. Which
I can go
what?
either way. And so you can, you know, we all are at different stages. We can do different things. So what's the benefits? Doing a cost benefit analysis of everything you're doing in life. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I could stay at this job or quit. Well, if you quit, are you closer to retirement? Do you need
Hmm.
some retirement benefits? The young people need to talk about I one day want to stop working.
Yes.
That's not talked about enough.
It's not talked about
because
enough.
when I was 30, I remember getting this good county job, and it's like, oh, you get a 403B. And I'm like, what is that?
What is that?
Then I started reading about it, and I realized I was behind on how much money they said you're going to need when you turn 65 or older. Now, then they raised our retirement age from my age group to 67. So now you got extra time, and you still ain't got no money. So then now you're going to create a whole stress. I learned my parents got $1,200 in Social Security month, each of them. Guess they're not even together no more. And when you think about how much rent is, can you $1,200? They got to live with someone.
Yeah.
You're living on your own. I don't want to do that for myself.
Yeah.
So you got to authentically plan your 20s. Be intentional about what you want to do for your lifespan.
Right. Right. And even if you didn't do that in your 20s, whether you're in your 30s, whether you're in your 40s,
start now. I started
and
at 28.
Yeah.
I started at 28.
Yeah.
I'm better now. I've did some catch up now, being serious and cutting out couponing, cutting out extra spending. I had to be disciplined with myself because I love myself too much to be poor and homeless on this, that I didn't want to do that to myself in my 60s, in my 70s. I was like, no, I think I'd better settle myself a little bit now and do something different. Do something different from the generations in the past. Huh?
I'm still waiting on that coupon class.
Oh, you know what I should do? I love it. I still coupon.
Yeah.
I still coupon.
Yeah, we still waiting on the class. But yes, you have a valid point, sitting down and reflecting on life, no matter where you are, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, trying to figure it out. One of the guests on the series, Ms. Zena Latrice, she said in her interview that she had just became an adult. I want to say it was at 50, maybe at 40, but I think it was at 50.
Wow.
She said she had been a child before because the mindset, wasn't there. The action.
Well, it's breaking generational trauma, healing that mother wound, healing that father wound, right? Those are all part of it. And so your growth will be stunted. You'll be 50 and still act like a 10-year-old because of the trauma of your past. It doesn't mean live forever with it, and you don't forget, but you identify it, you pat it on the back, you burp it and give it a bottle so that it don't impact your relationships with yourself, with your people around you, or with your God. So if you can work on nurturing that little person, the little girl, the little boy inside you, then you'll be happy over a long term. There's a teenager that didn't get to the attention they needed from their parent inside you. So then the one that wants to be wild and free, right? You trying to do the most entertaining. Well, guess what? You got to nurture that one. You bring it peace so that it's content with life. So therefore now the teenager not popping out doing too much when you should be managing and being an adult. And then what does adulting look like? Each person has a different identity on what it looks like. Some people, they're fine with just being normal, right? I sleep 8 hours, I work 8 hours, and that's their life. Congratulations. That's okay and that's good. But people like yourself and me, we don't get no sleep. We always working. We always creating. We always doing something. So it's like, I can't accept normal. I can't accept mediocrity. Who are you? But guess what? Be the best version of you. So like me, the overachiever that's always doing something, I work 25 hours a week for my business, and I work over 50 hours for the company I work for. Guess what? I still have a great quality of life.
And that's a good thing. That's a good point that you're making, because some people I was like, whoa. But for you, like you said, at the end of that, you still have a great quality of life. There's a balance. There's a balance somewhere in there. So I'm glad to hear that. I really want to step in and go into the books and the literary projects that you have done. Okay. There's a lot of them, y'all. There's a lot of them. If you want to look at LaLisa C. Morgan, look, y'all see her?
Yeah, just the new one. Tales from the Hood.
Yeah, so I wanna talk a little bit about the titles and why you decided to share your story in them. Okay. So let's go. All right, I guess we can go with Tales from the Hood. Tales from the Hood, tips and strategies for shared parenting with a person. Listen to this, y'all. With a person you don't like.
It's real talk.
Shared parenting with a person you don't like. So let's get into it. What is this book about? Why did you write it? Who is it for? What are you hearing the results that it's having for your readers?
Well, I wrote it because I remember what it was like when I didn't like my ex.
Mm,
I didn't like it. We broke up. I couldn't stand his butt.
mm-hmm.
And so I have interviewed and been working with hundreds of men and
Okay.
women that I don't like him. I don't like him. And oh, he's a decent father or she's a decent mother, but I don't like him. But then they trying to control everything in regards to the child's relationship with their other parent.
Oh, well, let's
Well,
get into
this
it.
one
Ooh,
specifically is for the Black community.
okay.
And so, because again, I know the challenges has been to get people in the therapy office. And then I know, unfortunately, some of the community mental health has a student therapist in
Mm,
there. And your situation requires a fully licensed individual.
mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, access is different for everyone. And so I figured if I write something, it'll give someone a tool to
Mm-hmm.
help with some higher level of interventions when dealing with someone you don't like. And so my hope is by really explaining what child abuse is, right? What trauma is, what court does, because everybody's like, oh, we don't want nobody in our business, but to protect you, your ex, and your child, you need some rights. Rights only get established in court.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we don't do that enough because we were told don't let the man know your business. But
Mm-hmm.
then when fathers want a relationship with their child and the mama said, oh, you can't see him, but it's your child, your sperm, you did it. You
Mm-hmm.
have rights. Even
Yeah.
if your name not on the birth certificate, you got
Mm-hmm.
rights. And people didn't know that. I've
Yeah.
hundreds of men I talked to didn't know they had rights.
Wow.
Women that didn't know their daddy, the baby daddy had a right. I'm like, no, what's the child safety issue for not having custody or
Mm-hmm.
not having visits?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, no, that doesn't rise up to WIC 300. That's just you don't like their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't have to like it. It's okay not to like them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why y'all broke up.
Yeah.
You don't like it. But you still gotta mind your own business, stay in your lane. Your house is your business, their house is their business. Is it a safety issue? Yes or no? If it's not, mind your business.
Right.
She got a new man. Is there a safety issue? Mind your business.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you are still grieving that relationship, you come talk to me because it's obvious there's some attachments here that you don't want to let go. Because
Yeah.
if you don't let that ex have that much power over you, if you done, I'm sorry. I don't care what you do. Oh, you be here, little Billy, pick him up. Okay, come pick him up. I'm great. I finally get an actual break.
Right.
Enjoy.
And
Love yourself.
it's interesting you say
Do
that
your
because
hair. Love it.
In the Black community, we unfortunately do see that. When relationships end, parents, I don't want to just say mothers,
No, it's
um,
both.
it's both. They start to just do tit for tat things, and
Including call the peoples, which you need to stop calling child welfare when it's not a real safety issue.
right, because it ultimately, at the end of the day, it's doing a disservice to your child.
Mm-hmm. You're
It's doing a disservice
traumatizing
to
your
your
child.
child. You're
Traumatizing your
already
child.
adding the layers and layers and layers of trauma into your child's subconscious, whether you
Mm-hmm.
think they know, oh, they too young, they don't know. No,
Nope. They know. They
they
know.
know, they
They
know.
know
And if
mommy and daddy
if
don't
they
like
can't
each other.
comprehend what's going on, you don't understand the emotional piece that you're doing.
But guess what? On top of that, they know mommy and daddy don't like each other. I'm part mommy and I'm part daddy, so I must not like me.
Mm.
So they have problems developing identity. They have problems loving themselves because
Yeah.
they can't embrace that I'm half mommy and I'm half daddy.
Yeah.
Because my mom didn't like my daddy, so there's parts of me that's ugly. That's my daddy don't like my mama, so there's parts of me that's ugly. So they don't love themselves as adults. So guess what? Fast forward, they get in a relationship. Everybody likes sex, so ooh, sex feels good, and they just jumping from man to woman, and guess what? Oops, there's another baby. Repeating the pattern.
Yeah.
No one gets whole, healed, and delivered because we keep repeating patterns. Love yourself. That way you set healthy boundaries. Sharing custody with a person you don't like teaches you communication strategies and how to deal with it. Use the cord as your arm, your strong arm when needed. Use the when it's safety, there's other systems in place. Let that system do the work for you.
Yeah.
And set healthy boundaries so that your child grows up as whole as they can be with two imperfect parents.
Yes. What is Surviving the Chaos? What is that book about?
That book is about my journey to self-love and self-compassion and reconnecting and rejuvenating my soul, like really getting in touch with God, really letting God define who I was, which is absolutely amazing. So now, you walk a little bit more confident, and people like, who do you think you are? Who do I know I am? Is what the word of the Lord told me I am. And so now you just walk different, you look different, you feel different. And when you love yourself, you can give from your overflow.
Yes.
You can love your kid from your overflow. You can love your partner from your overflow. You can just do. So it's like 7 life legacy lessons that have helped me anchor myself. And even as, approaching third quarter, I have to revisit stuff, right? Because I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I learn that lesson? And then you get off track, not doing enough self-care. And it's like, okay, let me go back to that lesson. Like my financial lesson, Lord, let me tell you, unfortunately, I've revisited that lesson several times. Pay off all the bills. Just think I'm on the right track, and then I go buy something I ain't got no business buying. But that's just humanity, right?
Yeah.
Give grace. Give grace to yourself. Love yourself. Okay, I spent too much on that item. Okay, I'm gonna tighten up. I'm gonna do it right. And it might be 90 days. It might be a year. It might be 5 years, and you trick off some money again. But give grace to yourself and love yourself. So there's different areas of your life. I got people tell me they cry, they see themselves in this book. I've gotten really good verbal communication in regards to how they felt and emotionally reacted. I talk about overcoming abuses as a child, sexual, mental health abuse, and what that looks like, how it's transformed into my relationships with others. I became a workaholic because I didn't want to feel. So I'm always working. And so now I can feel. But before, I would not take time to experience the emotion. I didn't really want to grieve. I didn't want to operate the honor the sadness or honor the anger. I was scared of my own self to get mad. And so
but I love that you recognize that you've done the work to know, what your triggers are. But I think one of the biggest things I just heard was that you were a workaholic because you didn't want to feel. You didn't want to, deal with the grief. You didn't want to deal with those things. And I think a lot of people don't recognize why they're keeping themselves so busy. Why they're taking that extra time in the car before going in the house to their family. There's a reason why you're doing some of these behaviors, right?
So I have a journal that goes with the book. And so if you're not ready to cross over to actual therapy, just ask a few questions in those different life legacy lessons, looking at family generational, what did your grandparents suffer from? Maybe cousin Bobby was a drug addict, and then now your kid has a drug issue, and you're trying to figure out where it came from, and you really never sat down and thought about it. Oh, this is a generational curse that's been impacting my parents and my cousins and my family for years, but I just didn't stop to think about it. Looking at your finances, looking at your career, looking at, just getting out of high school. What do I want to figure out? Like, where do I want to go with myself in my life? So it just asks a few questions to get you started. Again, the therapy, it doesn't substitute therapy experience, but it'll get you started in reflecting. So that was my journal. But
And is
I
there an
did.
age
I did a
group on
journal.
this? Is
Huh?
there an age group? Is there an age group on the journal? Is it gender specific? Is it for
It's not
all?
gender specific. It's very neutral. Everyone. I would say if you're a late teen to an
Okay.
adult, because it does ask about sexual abuse
Okay.
and what has happened to you in the past, and some people don't have the language for it,
Mm-hmm.
and so we want to make sure we honor that sensitivity,
Yeah.
because again, if you were abuse is different forms, there's different kinds of trauma. In the books they give examples of from immigration trauma to church hurt trauma. There's trauma in a whole lot of different areas. And so
Yeah.
I do describe what trauma is so that you can kind of know the different areas of trauma. And that way you can reflect, do I have a trauma story in this area? And that way
Mm,
you can talk about it with myself or another licensed clinician.
okay. I look. Woo. So I have just been, taking a couple of my little nuggets. I always capture some nuggets on all of these conversations. So I just want to drop a few of the nuggets that I pulled from our conversation today. So one of the things Lisa shared was that coaching is not therapy, and that's not to disregard the coaches, because I am one. But it is true that coaching is not therapy. There's a mental health component that's a big part of the difference between coaching and therapy, and what therapists have
And coaches
studied.
should have a few therapists that they trust,
Yes,
that they can refer to.
refer to.
I think coaches, if you really want to be a good coach, if you're a business coach and you see your client constantly being stuck and not following through in their business goals with you, then guess what? They may have something else going on. You're
Exactly.
there just to focus on the goal. Coaching could be a goal, like business or whatever the goal is. Well,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? They need to go talk to somebody else. That means
Definitely.
it exceeds your level of professionalism.
Yes.
Nope, that's okay. Be
Yeah.
okay with that. It ain't
Yeah.
about pride. Be
Mm-hmm.
okay. Refer them out.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, for me, I try to work with the client as much as I can, but once I see that there is a piece, like you said, where it's more of a mental health component, then as a coach, I need to step back and refer out. So for sure. Another thing that you said was that the person is coming out whole, healed, and delivered. And I think those are three things that are very important for us as a Black community to see ourselves rooted in. Am I whole? Am I healed? Am I delivered? And being able to do the work to get there. And it's not going to be easy, y'all. It's not going to be easy. When you are digging into your subconscious mind and you're realizing some things that you probably didn't even know that's coming to the forefront, and realizing that maybe it wasn't, that person's fault, or wasn't, we have to take some accountability
Because if
in
the
our
only
journey.
thing that changes is the person, it's a different face, but a common thread
Yep.
is you.
Yep.
You need to take a look at what you doing and own
Yep.
your stuff.
Own
Because it's
yourself.
not always the other person. Maybe
Yeah.
it's the fact that you yell and pop off at the mouth at that person. You trigger
Mm-hmm.
everyone in their trauma. So now you got a conflict.
Right.
Well, then maybe
Yeah.
if you learn to manage the anger within and soothe that fire down, maybe you can go longer periods of time with peace. People
Yeah.
don't really understand how right now. Let me tell you about my peace. I'd rather sit in the room by myself and keep my peace than be in a house full of fools. I swear, I'm not about to do that.
Yeah.
I love everybody, but I can't. My peace is everything now.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize how important it was till I got into that transitional place. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to sit in my car. I pay all that money for rent. I need to be in my house. No, no, no.
Yeah.
And so again, self-reflecting. What are your core values and your priorities?
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't help maintain your peace, your circle may have to shift. You
Yeah.
are only as strong as the top 5 people around you. Well, sometimes that top 5 need to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that top
Yeah.
5 makes need to shift at different seasons of your life.
Yeah. Get rid of those toxic friends that you don't know is a toxic friend, y'all. So another thing is, you said setting healthy boundaries for your children and the co-parenting relationships. Look to my parents that are listening, viewing, have, replay, set healthy boundaries for your children and for the co-parenting relationship to exist. And that may be, like you said, going through therapy to know, taking ownership and responsibility of the things that you caused, understanding why you accepted some of the things that you did, and endured those things, and then being able to work with your child's father or mother to be able to have a healthy relationship is really important.
And this book specifically gives you some boundaries of what the definitions of each court does. Okay. And that way, because there's different courts. And so we want you to be educated about that. We want you to be educated about what is real child abuse, because unfortunately everyone says that's abuse. And I'm like, no, that's not abuse. Yeah. I mean, and they're like, no, it has to be. I'm like, no, that's a preference issue. That's a personality issue. A lot of people running around with personality disorders don't even know it. And it's like, that's a personality thing. That's their preferences. It has nothing to do with abuse. And guess what? You guys didn't like each other. Your child is resilient. They will adjust to going back and forth to mom and dad's house or your other partner's house. They will adjust. They will know mom is a neat freak, dad is a clutter bum. Like they will adjust if that's the problem, or the roles are reversed. They will adjust. They will adjust when they go to this grandma's house. Grandma say you can jump on the couch. This grandma say no, don't touch. Get away from my couch. Get out. Don't even go in the living room. They adjust. They're really wonderful little unique human beings, and they have the capability of authentic love. That means loving you at your worst. That's what's great about children. And adults need to remember how to authentically love people at their best and at their worst. That's what children love us through. And I think that's why we love our children so passionately, because when we can't get out of bed and they throw the blanket on you and bring you some tea, you're like, oh, my baby. No. but when the ex or your boyfriend do it or your girlfriend do it, you're like,
Right.
That's showing
expecting that. You're supposed to do that. And it's like, no, I don't have to do anything.
You're supposed to take care of yourself. You know how some people get in relationships and expect the other people to take care of them. Like, oh, you're supposed to buy me this, you're supposed to buy me that, whatever. Well, if you love yourself, guess what? You're your main provider. You your main. Like, if they give me something, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
I love myself.
Yeah.
I pay my rent, I do it. And it's, being an independent woman has some blessings and some curses. Because I love myself. I take care of myself. I got my budget. I run mine. And but then at the same time, if you're gonna partner with someone, because you got to really evaluate self to really see if you just trying to hit it and quit it, and then you authentically tell people, I just want a sexual relationship, or you want a relationship means you got to give and take. That means you got to have balance. And so if one person versus the other, as long as you're authentically telling the individual, this is what you want, guess what? You guys can find agreements and work it out. But if you want to be in partnership, it takes some sacrifices because you can't have it always your way. And that's different because you can't throw that 3-year-old tantrum. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. That's my kid. No, it's our child. And guess what? You get to have the child sometimes, and I get to have the child sometimes.
Yeah.
And if we're together, we got to manage them together, because I'm not taking them to every doctor's appointment. You're going to take off work too and take them to the doctor's appointment.
Yes. So I want to close with two other things that I pulled from our conversation. And one of them is uncovering why you are inserting yourself into something. Why am I inserting myself into something? Okay, whether that's someone else's relationship, whether that's somebody's drama, whether that's too many extracurricular activities, leisure activities. Like, why am I inserting myself into this if I don't even have the capacity, and so on and so forth. That's the first thing. The last thing is to give grace to yourself, my people. Give grace to yourself. Lisa, it has been a joy. I do want you to leave one thing with the listeners. One thing with the listeners.
One
What do you want
thing,
to
oh
leave
my
with?
God. I would say if you don't authentically love you, authentically know who you are, take the time to invest in that. Because in order to love your children, in order to love your relatives or even friendships, you have to know who you are. And that means spending time with self and really knowing each other, knowing yourself. I know that the last 5 years of my personal journey, I've pulled in more. You know, with COVID, you got forced in, but I had started it slightly before that, pulling in, and I realized I wasn't being true to me. And so by looking at what was true to me, dating myself, loving myself, really finding out did I like liver and that's okay and no one else does, you know, I love me and
Mm,
I do for me. And so now I'm able to give authentically. I can say no and have healthy boundaries. And I'm living my best life whole. I'm a whole woman and I love it.
I
And
love that.
I'm here to help people on that journey to becoming whole.
Well, I love it. Look, if you're looking for any type of the services that Lisa has mentioned, her literary projects, I will make sure that I list all of those and how you can find them in the description of this episode. Thank you again so much. I appreciate you for being on this series. You dropped so many gems. From why we should seek therapy as a Black community, the importance of co-parenting, the importance of self-care. I mean, it was just so many things that I think that the viewers will definitely be able to have plenty of takeaways. Until then, Slay, and that is to simply live as
Live as
you in
you.
all things you do. And don't forget to reach back to your people and pull them to the forefront whenever possible. I'm Miss T. This is the Empower Her Experience Reach Back and Fetch It Sankofa series. Until then, I'm out.